Then with that energy, I will reign with blood and horror on this earth.
Depart.
Hello, welcome to my channel. One of the most honest things that evolutionary biologist and world-renowned author, atheist Richard Dawkins, admits in his book, The God Delusion, is that he can't prove God doesn't exist. That said, I too want to be as honest with you as Richard was about my perspective on the matter. Right from the get-go, I want you to know that I too can't prove with absolute and incontrovertible certainty that God does exist, even though I truly believe he does. That said, Richard's and my admissions alone should tell you something very important about this ongoing debate. My name's Martin Braden, and I'm the author of the book An Atheist Delusion. It's a Latter-day Saints perspective on Richard Dawkins' anti-theist, anti-Christ book, The God Delusion. As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as the Mormons, I bring a unique perspective to the God debate. And so since the new year is upon us, year 2026, my goodness, I thought I would do a series of videos on the overarching topic from which all of my videos will flow going forward. And that topic is whether or not God exists, which, as you know, springs forth a plethora of arguments and questions. Those questions being what I call the big questions, including those offered by atheists like Richard Dawkins and all those who sit on the opposite side of this debate like myself. I will refer to this debate as simply the God debate. Despite centuries of doing philosophy, theology, and science, neither side of this God debate, the atheist side or the theist side, has produced a single thread of irrefutable proof for their side's view of reality. Period. And so that fact leaves me saying that this debate is not really about proof at all. In my experience of more than 71 years of life, I've come to the conclusion that most people don't arrive at their beliefs about God because the evidence forces or drives them there. They arrive there because they've chosen which stack of so-called evidence they're willing to trust. Atheists tend to accept and trust the evidence that aligns with atheism, and theists tend to accept and trust the evidence that aligns with theism. And as I said, it's not because one side has incontrovertible proof and the other side doesn't. It's because their set of conclusions derived from a particular stack of evidence makes their worldview feel more reasonable, more comfortable, and more coherent for them than the other side's stack of evidence. Richard Dawkins places God's non-existence at just over 50% probability on what he's called his percentage of probability spectrum scale. After examining the same question from my Latter-day Saint perspective, having drawn on specific discoveries, philosophical reasoning, and personal experience, my belief cursor regarding God's existence sits at the far end of the spectrum, where it says God exists. In fact, for me, my belief cursor sits on the 100% God exists marker on Dawkins' percentage of probability spectrum. But here's the key point. Richard and I are both doing the same thing. We're both choosing to believe evidence that aligns with the worldview we feel more comfortable with and are willing to embrace due to our own life's experiences. My book, An Atheist Delusion, and this channel, Dispelling the Accusatory Fog, are not about forcing belief. They're about helping you, my viewers and readers, understand the why behind you believing what you believe and whether or not you're honestly examining the evidence on both sides of the debate before you permanently choose which side you believe most. It is my hope that you'll be willing to seriously consider the big questions about God, science, and meaning by accepting my invitation to continue with me in this journey, this video journey through 2026, and then decide at that time what you honestly believe. I'm confident that you'll find it challenging, respectful, and ultimately worth the investment of your precious time as you watch each of my videos this year. As I said down in the description for this video, neither atheist scientists or theist scientists have produced any absolute, irrefutable proof for their position. And that's precisely why this debate is so emotionally charged and intellectually challenging. But here's what's interesting to me. Recent scientific discoveries, many coming from atheist scientists themselves, are beginning to raise new, evidence-revealing questions that buck up against past claims. Questions that, at least for me, are pointing more and more toward God's handiwork than they are pointing away from it. Ultimately, every one of us choose which stack of evidence we're most comfortable with, and that's because we want to believe in our worldview. What I'm suggesting here is that you don't make this choice lightly. Before you make your final decision, ask yourself these two questions. Why do I accept one stack of evidence over another one's? Why does the one explanation I'm leaning towards feel more compelling or more comfortable to me than the opposite side's explanation? My channel exists for one reason: to offer a Latter-day Saints perspective that challenges the idea that belief in God is irrational and outdated, and to show that the probability of God's existence may be much further along the percentage of probability spectrum towards the marker that says God exists than you may be willing to admit. Science and data itself do not say or claim anything. Only scientists do. As mathematician John Lennox has pointed out in past writings and debates, scientists interpret data, and interpretations even by brilliant scientists are not the same thing as scientific proof. In our modern world, science carries enormous cultural authority, and understandably so. Scientific discoveries and technologies have blessed humanity in remarkable ways. That's a fact, but we must keep in mind authority can be and often is misused. When scientists move from describing data to interpreting it, meaning when they start making philosophical claims about God or purpose, they've stepped outside the boundaries of science and into worldview. This is why the real debate is not between science and religion. It's between atheism and theism, two competing interpretations of reality. History reminds us of this. Some of the greatest scientific minds, people like Isaac Newton, saw no conflict between scientific discovery and belief in God. Newton believed the order of the universe pointed to an intelligent, governing being. He did not see science as replacing God, but as revealing him. Another brilliant scientist, Nikola Tesla, held similar views. His groundbreaking inventions came to him as vivid mental images, which he believed were connected to a higher source of intelligence. These examples of brilliant scientists I've mentioned here, and there's many more I could have mentioned, don't prove God's existence, but they do prove something important. Belief in God has never been incompatible with scientific brilliance. So, when we're told that, quote, science has settled the God question once and for all, we should pause and ask ourselves whether we're hearing science speak or someone's philosophy. The truth is, where you personally choose to land on this question is ultimately up to you. My goal with this video series is not to coerce what you should believe, but to encourage honest thinking about it. And so regardless of where your belief cursor currently sits on the percentage of probability spectrum, I'm inviting you to honestly consider why you believe what you believe. Oh, there you go. This video is an introduction and the first video in a series of videos I'm going to be doing for 2026 regarding this God debate. By doing this series, I hope to cover as many of the questions and arguments that have and continue to flow from it. Each video will be my response to one or more of Richard Dawkins's arguments that he postulates throughout his book, The God Delusion. And those responses, of course, will be from my Latter-day Saint perspective, from my LDS glasses, so to speak. In closing, let me just say that science is not the enemy of faith. Worldviews matter. Interpretations matter. The search for truth will continue, of course, despite all the noise the world is making. As a Latter-day Saint, I choose to keep moving forward, being confident that honest, humble, and faithful inquiries are not contradictions. They're simply companions on the road to truth. My next video is titled, Science Doesn't Say or Claim Anything, Only Scientists Do. That's going to be a fun one. In fact, if you're willing to subscribe, and I hope you are, just find the subscribe, like, and notification bell buttons and click on them. That way you'll be notified when each of my new videos goes live. And until next time, though, I wish you continued success. Goodbye. Love you.